Prosody is the music of language, the beats and rhythm of words and sentences. Each syllable of a word is a beat. At the heart of each syllable is a single vowel, and one is stressed more than the rest. The traditional description of word-level prosody in Spanish identifies syllables by counting them backwards. The last, the second to last, the third to last, and so on. As demonstrated by these names, in most Spanish words, the stress falls either on the second to last vowel or the last vowel. Is there one underlying rule that describes both? Is there a single, simple master rule? If there is, we'll find it by lining up the stressed vowels. Whether the stress falls on the second to last syllable or on the last syllable, in both cases it's right before the last consonant. Is the true nature of Spanish prosody revealing itself? It seems pretty straightforward, and it's even easy to see. After the last consonant, there's room for terminal suffixes, but only one beat. In nouns, the terminal suffix position shows gender and number. Everything before the terminal suffix position can be considered the base, which includes the root, prefixes, and other suffixes. The terminal suffix position is always there, even when it's empty. If there is one master rule for the default stress pattern in Spanish words, this is it. By default, the stressed vowel is the last vowel of the base, which for most words is right before the last consonant. In the case of nouns with an exposed base, when the terminal suffix position is empty, we can often fill it. Remember that the terminal suffix position only allows one beat, and a diphthong is just one beat. For nouns, recall that the terminal suffix position shows gender and number. Adding the plural suffix s doesn't add a beat. Only two consonants are allowed in the terminal suffix position, a final s, which can either be a plural suffix for nouns, and the tu suffix for verbs, and a final n, which is a plural suffix for verbs. Adding a final s or a final n doesn't add a beat, and it doesn't change the rhythm. We can amend our master rule. By default, the stressed vowel is right before the last consonant that counts. As opposed to a solid square, an outline shows that a final s or a final n doesn't count. The same rule applies to all words, whether the terminal suffix position is filled or not. There is one more important detail to consider. Words ending in a hiatus have a break where the consonant normally would be, but the same rule still applies. Our master rule is now complete. By default, the stressed vowel is right before the last consonant that counts or the last break. While most bases end with a consonant or a group of consonants, some do not. Seeing this pattern is surprisingly easy for beginners. However, for those who have the traditional paradigm firmly established in their minds, it can be somewhat challenging. Three sets of convincing examples will train the eye and retrain the mind. The simple pattern is revealed by lining up the consonants that count. Find the beats, then find the stressed vowel, right before the T. After the T, there's only one beat. The stressed vowel is right before the Z. A final S doesn't count. After the Z, there's only one beat. The stressed vowel is right before the L. After the L, there's a space for one beat, the final syllable position, but it's empty. Making it plural fills the position and adds a beat, but it doesn't change the rhythm. Note that a diphthong anywhere in a word is still one beat. The stressed vowel is right where it should be, before the L. the stressed vowel is right before the G. After the G, the two vowels make a diphthong, just one beat. Once again, in the terminal suffix position, two vowels make one beat, a diphthong. The stress is right before the last consonant that counts, the C. This word ends with a hiatus, not a diphthong. A hiatus makes two beats, which isn't allowed in the terminal suffix position. The stress isn't before the C, it's before the break. While most bases do end with a consonant, some do not. Words ending with a hiatus have a break where the consonant normally would be, but the same basic rule applies. Let's take a look at the master rule in adjectives. In adjectives, the terminal suffix position shows the same information as it does in nouns, gender, and number. The stressed vowel is right before the D. The stressed vowel is right before the L. After the L, there's a space for one beat, but it's empty. Filling the beat doesn't change the stress. Some bases end with a group of consonants, and the master rule still applies. In this morphology-based paradigm, the formal rules of syllable division are inconsequential. The stressed vowel is still right before in either case. When the base is long, consisting of a root, a prefix, and a non-terminal suffix, the master rule still applies. Let's take a look at the master rule in verbs. In verbs, the vowels and consonants in the terminal suffix position encode different information, but the master rule still applies. A final N doesn't count, which indicates number. A final S doesn't count either, which in verbs indicates person. A hiatus makes two beats, and the break between the two vowels is the break between the base and the terminal suffix position. Most Spanish bases end with a consonant, but some do not. The stressed vowel is right before the break. This is a diphthong, which only makes one beat. The master rule, including its finer points, is still easy to see. Of course, many Spanish words have a written accent. The master rule describes the default position of the stressed vowel in prototypical Spanish words, but the rule can be broken. Most words do not have a written accent. The stressed vowel is implied by the master rule. Fewer words are exceptions to the rule. The stressed vowel is explicitly shown with a written accent. If a word doesn't have one, simply follow the rule to find the typical default stress. An explicit written accent clearly shows that the rule is being broken. Although not necessary, but perhaps of some interest, the atypical stress can be described as either early or late. One rule applies to all words, words that end in a vowel, and words that end in a consonant. In this morphology-based paradigm, categorizing the stress by the last, second to last, or third to last syllable is really inconsequential. These both follow the same master rule. And these both break it. Just to reiterate, in this morphology-based paradigm, counting syllables backwards has no significance. Usually the stressed vowel lines up in all the related forms of a noun or an adjective. Either they all have a written accent, or, as in this case, they all do not. This root ends with an S. If the terminal suffix position is empty, the final consonant of the base is essentially exposed. According to the master rule, a final S doesn't count. So in this case, a written accent is necessary to maintain the same stress. This root ends with an N. Again, the terminal suffix position is empty, leaving the final consonant of the base exposed. According to the master rule, a final N doesn't count. A written accent on this form is necessary to maintain the same stress. Words like these are not uncommon, and each word individually follows or breaks the rule. Diphthongs and hiatus are very frequent in Spanish. With a decline in phonetics instruction, this often escapes the notice of many non-native teachers. Understanding them is essential in order to know the number of syllables, in other words, beats, in a word, and also in order to know exactly which vowel carries the stress. Again, in this morphology-based paradigm, the formal rules of syllable division are inconsequential. A diphthong only has one beat, so the stressed vowel is right before the G. A hiatus makes two beats, and the break between the two vowels is the break between the base and the terminal suffix position. While most Spanish bases end with a consonant, this one doesn't. The stressed vowel is right before the break. A diphthong only has one beat, so the stressed vowel is right before the C. All of these words follow the rule. In this word, the neighboring vowels would naturally form a diphthong, and the stress would naturally fall right before the R. However, a written accent breaks the rule. First and foremost, it moves the stress from its typical position. And in this case, it also does something extra. It separates the weak vowel, breaking the diphthong and adding a new beat. Often a diphthong is found right before the last consonant. Knowing which vowel is strong makes it easy to determine exactly which one carries the stress. When a hiatus occurs right before the last consonant, it's just as clear. Words like these are usually considered tricky. But with a solid understanding of how neighboring vowels interact, they all make perfect sense. Right before the last consonant, these words have neighboring vowels that naturally make a diphthong. Which vowel carries the stress? However, a written accent will move the stress from its typical position. In this case, it also separates the weak vowel, breaking the diphthong and adding a new beat. The 3-step online module is easy to weave into any curriculum at any level, and it's especially effective with total beginners. The earlier, the better. It's completely free and doesn't require an account or login. Plus, there are no cookies or tracking. The 3 steps are simply conceptualized. Count the beats, hit the target, and miss the target. Step 1. Count the beats. These are the vital prerequisite skills that are usually overlooked. Diphthongs and hiatus. In other words, how neighboring vowels interact. Depending on the level, Step 1 can be spread over a few days or a few weeks in small doses. Each step starts with a 10 to 12 minute video lecture, which can be done in class or as homework. If your students' attention spans are short and need expanding, these video lectures are perfect. They are informative and engaging, but not designed to be entertaining. The second video is shorter and it shows how to do the practice app. You may want to skip this video and explain it yourself in the target language. Then there are 5 recommended practice vocabulary sets: familiar Hispanic foods, 2 sets of names, Spanish-speaking countries, and world languages. Each set takes about 15 minutes, and they should be spread out over several days. They make excellent warm-ups, cool-downs, and homework. The words in each vocabulary set can easily be worked into class. Besides the 5 recommended sets, there are many extra thematic sets. They are mostly cognates and are perfect for stories, school subjects, the horoscope, musical instruments, animals, world countries, world cities, and a lot more. Many teachers think that pronunciation practice is tedious. Maybe you avoid it. But students actually love to practice pronunciation, especially when the vocabulary is interesting. Again, Step 1 should be spread out over several days or even several weeks. As you plan and preview Step 1 yourself, you'll think of many ways to weave this program into your curriculum. Step 2. Hit the target. Students will quickly learn how to find the default stress in words without written accents. Start with the video lecture, then the video instructions, then the practice. In this practice, vowels are represented as circles and ovals. The consonants are represented as squares and rectangles. In Step 2, none of the words have written accents, so students can find the stressed vowel of a word even before they know what the word is. Step 2 goes fast, just a few days. There are only 3 practice sets: familiar Hispanic foods, first names, and last names. This method is surprisingly effective, and you'll enjoy watching your students of all interest levels succeed. It actually increases the interest in disinterested students. Step 3. Miss the target. Students are now ready to break the rule with the written accent in Step 3. Like always, start with the video lecture, then the video instructions, and then the practice. Step 3 has 5 thematic sets of recommended practice: 2 sets of first names, a set of last names, adjectives to express opinions, and sports. Step 3 has many extra practice sets that can be spread out through the rest of the semester or year. They are mostly cognates and are perfect for stories: the solar system, the universe, 2 sets of places, capitals of Spanish-speaking countries, other major cities around the world, and a lot more. The entire 3-step module complements any curriculum or method, and as you preview the module yourself, you'll get some great ideas to weave it into your classes. The module is free to access worldwide, and with a small donation, we'll send you your very own PowerPoint versions of the video lectures. In the PowerPoint format, you can customize the program for your students and present or review the concepts even in the target language. You can make a $10 donation for any step individually, or make a single $25 donation for the whole bundle. A set of large format posters is also in the works, a helpful pronunciation reference for students right on the wall. The set will include the alphabet, diphthongs with U, diphthongs with I, the 2 sounds of Y as a consonant or as a vowel. Also included are consonant clusters, digraphs, and troublesome combinations such as C, S, and Z, contrasted and compared. This also comes in a peninsular version with only C and Z. G and J contrasted and compared, and the 4 cases in Spanish when U is silent, contrasted with the corresponding 4 cases when it is not, including the use of the diaeresis. Just by watching this video, you've already got a great start on our free professional development module for Spanish teachers. Head back to Our Projects and go to Fondamentos. Your students will go here, but you'll continue the professional development module here. This is a clean website. You won't be bothered by cookies, tracking, pop-ups, or ads. There is no charge, no signing up, and no logging in for you or your students. Work your way down the menu, starting with the background questionnaire. You've already watched this video, so you can answer some questions about the new morphological paradigm, and some general questions about the program. Next, you'll work through the 3-step program from the student's perspective, and you'll also answer some questions about it from your perspective as a teacher. The entire professional development module should take about 3 hours. And since you've already watched this video, you've already started.